by friends that she for her part was also in love, yet he was not able by humane art and policy to convert her to his mind. Wherewithal he was long time molested, and at length pressed with griefe and annoyance, he was advised to send 600 ducats to the mother, for a reliefe to the marriage of her daughter, promising besides that he would assign her an honest dowry when she found a man worthy to be her husband, upon condition that she would yield to him some comfort to ease his affection. But she which could not be won with love was not able to be recovered with money, and was offended that Senior Didaco had forgotten himself so far as to think to gain that for money which with so great pain, tears, and sighs had been denied him. And to make him understand how she was offended, she sent word by him that brought her the money, that he should go and prove hereafter to deceive them that measured their honour with the price of profit, and not to set traps to deceive other that would buy nothing hurtful to virtue. And after Didaco was advised of her mind, and perceived that he lost time in all his enterprises, and was able no longer to sustain his extreme pain and sorrow, which daily augmented, and when he had debated in his mind all the success of his love, he resolved in the end upon that which he thought most profitable for his quiet, which was to marry her. And although she was of no such house, and yet less endowed with substance as he deserved, yet her beauty and virtue and other gifts of grace wherewith she was enriched made her worthy of a great lord. And resolved upon this, he repaired to Violenta, to whom he said: "Mistress Violenta, if the true touchstone to know them that be perfect lovers amongst other is marriage, certainly you have gotten a husband of me, if it please you to accept me for such one, whom in time you shall make to understand the difference between goodness and virtue, and between honesty and riches." Violenta then, ravished with joy and incredible contentation, somewhat abashed, said unto him: "Senior Didaco, I know not whether you pretend by words to prove my constancy, or else bring me into fool's paradise, but of one thing I can assure you, that although I acknowledge myself inferior to you in merits, goods, and virtue, yet if that come to pass which you promise, I will not give place to you in love, trusting if God send us life together, you shall well understand one day that you would not exchange my person for a greater lady whatsoever she be." For confirmation whereof, Didaco plucked from his finger an emerald of great value, which, when he had kissed her, he gave unto her in the way of marriage, praying her that she would not disclose it for a certain time, until he himself had made all his friends privy unto it. Notwithstanding, he willed her to impart the same to her two brethren, and to her mother, and he would get some priest of the country to solemnize the marriage within their house, which was done in a chamber about 4 of the clock in the morning, being only present the mother, the brethren, the priest, and a servant of the house, brought up there from her youth, and his own man, without making any other preparation of cost requisite for such a matter. In this sort they spent the day in great joy and mirth, which they can conceive that be of base birth and exalted to some high degree of honour, till night was come, and then every man withdrew themselves, leaving the bride and her husband to the mercy of love and order of the night, who being alone received equal joy and like contentation, which they feel that being pressed with ardent and grievous thirst, do in the end afterwards with lively joy and all kind of liberty quench that cruel discommodity, and continued in those pleasures till morning, that day began to appear, to whom Violenta said: "My honourable lord and dear husband, sith that you be now in possession of that which you have so greatly desired, I humbly beseech you to consider for the time to come how and what wise your pleasure is that I shall use myself. For if God grant me the grace to be so discreet in pleasing you, as I shall be ready and desirous to obey you, in all that you shall command me, there was never gentleman's servant that did more willingly please his master than I hope to do you. My sweet and well beloved wife, let us leave this humbleness and service for this time to them which delight in them, for I promise you of my faith that I have you in no less reverence and estimation than if you had come of the greatest house in Catalonia, as I will make you understand some other time at more leisure. But till I have given order to certain of mine affairs, I pray you to keep our marriage secret, and be not offended if many times I do resort home to mine own house, although there shall no day pass by my will, but at night I will keep you company. In the meantime, to buy you necessaries, I will send you 1,000 or 1,200 ducats to employ, not upon apparel or other things requisite to your degree, for I will provide the same myself at another time, but upon small trifles, such as be apt and convenient for household. And so departed Senior Didaco from his wife's house, who did so lovingly entertain him, as by the space of a year there was no day wherein he was content without the view and sight of his wife. And upon his oft resort to their house, the neighbours began to suspect that he kept the maiden, and rebuked her mother and brethren, but especially Violenta, for suffering Didaco to use their house in such secret wise. And above all they lamented the ill hap of Violenta, who, being so well brought up till she was 20 years of age, and maiden of such beauty, that there was none in all the city of Valencia but greatly did esteem her to be of singular honesty and reputation. Notwithstanding, degenerating from her accustomed virtue, they judged her to be light of behaviour, given to lascivious love, and albeit that very many times such checks and taunts were objected, yet she made small account of them, knowing that her conscience by any means was not charged with such reproach, hoping therewithal that one day she would make them to give over that false opinion, when her marriage should be published and known. But certain times, feeling herself touched and her honesty impaired, could not contain but when she saw time with her husband, she prayed him very earnestly to have her home to his own house, to avoid slander and defamation of neighbours. But Sir Didaco knew so well how to use his wife by delays and promises, as she agreed unto him in all things, and had rather displease the whole world together than offend him alone. Being now so attached with the love of the knight, as she cared for nothing else but to please and content him in all things whereunto she saw him disposed. And like as in the beginning she was hard and very slack in love, now she became so fervent and earnest in her affections, as she received no pleasure but in the sight of Didaco, or in that which might content and please him best. Which the knight did easily perceive, and seeing himself in full possession of her heart, began by little and little to wax cold, and to be grieved at that which before he counted dear and precious, persuading himself that he should do no wrong to his reputation, if that marriage unworthy of his estate were discovered and known in the city, and to provide for the same, he more seldom times repaired to visit his wife Violenta. Yea, and whensoever he resorted to her, it was more to satisfy his carnal pleasure, than for any love he bore her. And thus, forgetting both God and his own conscience, he frequented other companies in divers places, to win the good will of some other gentlewoman. In the end, by sundry suits, dissimulations, and hypocrisies, he so behaved himself as he recovered the good will of the daughter of Signor Ramiro Villaracuta, one of the chiefest knights and of most ancient house of Valencia. And, as we have declared before, because he was rich and wealthy and issued of a noble race, her parents did easily agree to the marriage, and the father having assigned an honourable dowry to his daughter, the nuptials were celebrated publicly with great pomp and solemnity, to the singular contentation of all men. The marriage done and ended, Sir Didaco and his new wife continued at the house of his father-in-law, where he lived a certain time in such pleasure and delectation as they do that be newly married. Whereof the mother and brethren of Violenta, being advertised, conceived like sorrow, as accustomedly they do, that see the honour of them that be issued of their own blood, unjustly and without cause to be despoiled. And these poor miserable creatures, not knowing to whom to make their complaint, lived in strange perplexity, because they knew not the priest which did solemnize their marriage. On the other side, they had no sufficient proof of the same, and albeit they were able to verify in some points the first marriage of Didaco, yet they durst not prosecute the law against two of the greatest lords of their city. And knowing the stout heart of Violenta, they thought to conceal the same from her for a time, but it was in vain. For not long after she was certified thereof, not only by the next neighbours, but by the common brute of the city, which reported, that in 10 years space there was not seen in Valencia a marriage more honourable or royal, nor frequented with a nobler company of gentlemen and ladies, than the same was of the young knight Didaco with the daughter